Welcome to Movie and a Beer, everybody.
Oh, it's recording?
We're going to start recording.
I was going to just say dog fingering.
We're going to laugh ourselves through this episode because, yes, what Blake just said does actually happen in the movie we watched. So thank you for joining us, everyone.
And welcome to our review of Fight Club.
Yeah. My name's Dan, and this is Movie and a Beer. And we're laughing ourselves and trying to center now.
Center.
I would like to welcome you all to a great episode. And we have three amazing friends and co-hosts and people to join us along this journey.
We are. We're all amazing. We're all equally amazing. I'm Aaron. I'm equally amazing as everyone else. I'm your Boy George expert tonight.
What?
I am so glad to be the Boy George expert, let me tell you.
Hey, Aaron, what's his number one song?
I don't know. but he started out with Culture Club before he became Boy George. I was Karma Chameleon, I want to say. I think that was probably it. There was also something about time.
I've done before, yeah.
I mean, I was alive in the 80s.
Did he do Short Skirt, Long Jacket?
No, that was not.
That was
Boy
Cake.
George. That was Cake. That was a different decade. That was a decade
They're
later.
timeless.
But there was something about like time doesn't give us love, or lovers need time, or something with time and love. I don't know. I'll look this up. Blake, do your intro.
It's time for me to do my intro. I'm
my
Blake.
God.
I'm your Brian Cox expert. He played William Stryker in X2, which is regarded as one of the better X-Men movies.
Yes.
He's also in Super Troopers.
And my name is also Brian, and I'm your Pekingese expert.
No.
So how do you stop a Pekingese from biting your arm, Brian?
Well,
Oh, Dan!
Time
draws a
Clock of the
magic
Heart.
circle around him.
Yes, you draw.
Time Clock of the Heart by Culture Club. That was the
All
song.
right, there we go.
There we go.
Keeps me hanging on.
Okay, so we're talking about a film that literally just got released like yesterday called The Parenting.
And let me just say real quick, catch it as soon as you can because it's on Max, which means it has like 3 weeks before they pull it for no good reason.
Yeah, so there's it follows
I
a
don't like
young
this.
couple, Rohan and Josh, as they plan the perfect weekend getaway in the country to introduce their parents to each other.
Right.
As tensions begin to flare between the most traditional Sharon and Frank and the laid-back Liddy, like a lid, but Liddy,
Like a lid of a jar.
like a lid of a jar.
Like Elizabeth.
Like, yeah.
And their three Pekingese.
And the three Pekingese and her husband Cliff with the big old pot belly, which is awesome.
So being that this is such a new movie, I want to say we all really enjoyed this up front. You kind of spoiler for the podcast.
Yeah.
We all really, and so I'm going to say, like, we'll talk about it probably as much as we can without spoiling,
Too much.
because I think we're all going to really want to encourage our listeners to watch this
Yes,
film.
it's quite funny.
It is
it's really entertaining.
we should say
yeah.
what the movie name is.
the parenting.
Parenting. We said that.
Yeah, we said. I think I said that. So
I don't know. Let's not listen.
The
Let's not
gist is there's a demon that sort of it comes out later on, but yes, there's a possession that happens,
Right.
and it's a
Yeah,
fun
but
possession.
that happens in the first 5 minutes too.
Yeah.
It does.
You get a preface, and then the story is told.
So this is set, I think, in like definitely contemporary.
Yeah, they never give a
United
year, but
They
it's
do. But-
essentially now.
19.
But
But
it
then
feels
today.
like 2025.
It starts with a flashback to 1983
Right.
to kind of set the scene and where did it all start.
But this
Yep.
this film, even the name, The Parenting, it sounds like there's a reference to a lot of these like 1980s, like Poltergeist, The Possession.
the
The
haunting
Exorcist.
of
So there's
something.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's some great connections that we had to. None of us. Well, I think you three gentlemen did not watch the trailer.
No.
I watched the trailer, so I had a little bit of an idea.
'Cause
We
Dan's
were earlier
the
tonight
producer.
over at Beer Mongers, and we were looking for beers for this movie.
We monged.
And I said, hey, there's demon dogs in it, and there's people on telephones and distressed. And even like the woman on this label looks like one of the people in the movie on the phone.
Yeah.
she
Me-
does.
He looks like it.
Meanwhile, the guy on the
Good
can
choice.
looks like Parker from the
Yeah.
detective series Parker.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy. So the beers that we got were in the order we tried them: Living Haus Beer Company's Toby, which is a modern cream ale with a crazy dog on it, and it's a demon dog. And there is a demon dog in this film,
Toby's a
A
good boy.
Pekingese.
a Pekingese
There
demon
are
dog.
3.
And then the second beer was Irrelevant Beer Company, a rude but true West Coast IPA. So it's these label. I'm serious. Like this fit perfectly with what the premise of the film was from what I saw
No.
in the trailer. And if again, We highly recommend seeking this movie out. It is hilarious.
Yeah, I would say if you're on the fence about this film, watch the trailer. I watched part of it and I was hooked.
I didn't watch
I
any
definitely
of
wanted
it.
to see it.
I
Yeah.
watched none of it, and I think it helped having seen none of it because I didn't know what to expect going in.
Right.
Because Dan told us the two genres, comedy and horror, that kind of blended together. But then Aaron and I kept doing jokes about like it's a rom com, it's this and that. And
It
I
is
got
like
confused.
a rom-com.
Well, kind of. It's like if a Hallmark movie was good.
We were
That's a good-
No,
that's
I
a good
love a
approach.
Hallmark movie, but they're not good.
It's kind of like a Meet the Parents, but with a little horror twist, I would
Yeah.
say.
I mean, that's a fair
It's very
description.
Paranormal Activity meets The Fockers.
But this actually is much funnier than what
No.
I was expecting. I was expecting something that was going to like be kind of like a bland rom com,
Like a lot of those parody movies where they don't try, they just do the
Yeah.
first draft of the joke and say it's good enough.
right. And but
Yeah,
this-
I expected to be entertained, but I actually laughed out loud.
We all
several
did.
times.
We all
Right.
did.
We all did.
It
yeah.
wasn't a Mystery Science Theater scenario where we made fun of it. We were like, "This is these jokes are funny. The horror elements are there.
And they land.
They,
Yeah.
yeah, they
They
get
land.
both tropes incredibly right, which is really impressive.
And you actually believe that for a moment that they're like, what the hell is going on?
Mhm.
Because the ghosts disappear. Like there's ghosts and then there's a possession. So let's get that out there because there's differences.
well, so there's differences with like ghosts and poltergeists and demons and all that. But Blake, I'm going to ask a different question first
42.
to get us started. It's not the answer to life and meaning of life.
The
Like,
universe.
what it
Universe
is
and everything.
How did you feel about becoming invested in these characters? Like I think we all, as we're watching and laughing, and I'll ask Brian and Dan, you also, but Blake, I'm going to start with you to put you on the spot and make
Hell
you
yeah.
uncomfortable.
I got this.
There's a point where we see this young couple going to this remote country estate, and they're talking about kind of like stupid, like, would you choose this or would you choose that? I think
Like cute couple stuff.
cute couple stuff, but we all became invested in these characters and we all cared about them. How did that happen for you? Like, what point in the movie did you know you were?
Meeting the parents.
Yeah.
Because I've at least on the former REI employee Josh's parents
Yes.
Yeah.
being very like blue collar, just regular folks compared to Rohan's like very prim proper upper crust types.
Teacher
I've-
and secretary.
Yes, I've met.
Math
So-
teacher.
Math teacher.
What sold it for me was just how all the actors pulled off their characters. Like
Right.
Lisa Kudrow's in this, Edie Falco, Brian Cox. Oh God, his
Parker
name.
Posey.
Parker Posey's so good. Dean Norris.
Yeah.
The ones I named like are all the parents.
Yeah.
Everyone just nails their roles. It felt real, but like still satirized to a degree where it's like, oh yeah, I recognize that trope, but it's not like over the point, over the top.
They were
like,
all
silly.
archetypes,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
the actors are so high quality that they
Yeah,
built on the
They
archetype.
built on it. And,
Just-
and they
but-
did
so
it.
it's-
It felt natural.
yeah. So for me, it was just seeing how the parents interacted with both sons and going like that. Man, yeah.
And then
these
interacted with each
characters.
other.
So it wasn't Lisa Kudrow's taxi pajamas that nodded to
It-
her
it
friends.
helped.
Okay.
Yeah, Aaron's a big Friends fan. If you
No.
guys didn't know, hey, Aaron's friends who are listening, send him Friends memorabilia. He loves that stuff. How you doing?
I hate everything you just said. That's going to be a waste of everybody
You
who
hate
loves
your
me and their
friends?
money.
That's rude.
No. Brian,
Yeah.
so
Okay,
how did
yeah.
you get like
What drew you in?
pulled into this film? Like when I think Blake is saying kind of act 1 where we're still even meeting the characters he's invested. If we say that this is a 3-act film, were you also invested in act 1?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say that I was drawn in by the really good acting early on, but I was also there were some extremely heartfelt moments toward the end of the film.
Yeah.
that really I really felt something, which I didn't expect for kind of a lighthearted, farcical comedy, which is kind of how it bills itself, how it feels it. But there's some real heart to this film.
There's some
I'd agree with
emotional weight in
There's
this presented
baggage.
as-
There's
Absolutely.
baggage.
not baggage. There's
Well-
emotional content
Well, I mean,
that's
there's-
meaningful.
Well, there's like the
There's
standard
also
family
emotional baggage.
Yeah, there's like standard family baggage,
So-
but then they work through it. Like
Yeah.
Dan, beyond the baggage, was there anything you were like that drew you in?
The first possession scene drew me in because
That
I knew
sounds
I was
very-
like,
it's a very
and
Dan
then
answer.
and then it was like when he cut the dude's arm. That's all I'm gonna
yeah.
say
God, that was
because it was out of the blue.
what a great scene.
I didn't expect that.
it was
that's
kind
the-
of a shock scene.
It was a
little
shock
bit.
scene. It was
Well,
like,
oh,
what are you
okay.
doing? Oh, this? Oh, sorry.
That-
You're like, what?
So good.
There's one scene that points to that I want to talk about, which is it's kind of a Gollum scene.
Is it the
where
the dinner?
No, afterwards when the possessed person is the original
yes.
person is talking to the possession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
I see what
yeah.
you mean.
And
the
that's
Gollum versus the Gollum versus Smeagol.
Yeah, kind of the good
versus the
evil possessed.
It's even set up prior to that. The demon says to him at the beginning, like when this first starts, you're already dead. I'm in you, and you just everyone will die. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you may want to fight this, and he says that the demon says you're going to want to fight this, but you can't because you're weak.
Right.
And he has to prove that he's not weak, and he doesn't. So,
well, he started the Weapon X program. He's pretty strong.
This is one of the family members, not one of our protagonists, but a family member has this sort of special moment in the film.
Yeah, I was going to say my special moment was actually the nude scene, but we're not going to get into that at this point.
Oh, you mean for that body double?
What I do want to get into is, to me, it seems like there's so many callbacks to like these 80s films of like you've remembered like Nightmare on Elm Street and then like Freddy Krueger and then I'm thinking like The Exorcist and then also Jason.
Yeah.
Like, and then
Mike
Freddy
Myers,
Krueger. And then Nightmare on Elm Street.
All right, let someone who's an actual film nerd get into this.
It borrows from them all.
Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, your Exorcist films, your House on Amityville.
Thank you for taking
Amityville Horror.
Thank you for taking my joke about naming the same movie and like actually going where I was trying to go.
Got you, bud. Bump it up.
But I feel like there are a lot of references to like 80s paranormal.
I think that's why this film works so well.
There's even a reference to Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
There is.
Really?
A little bit.
It was
the snow globe.
The snow globe.
That's right. Yeah. No, I think that's why this movie works so well as a horror comedy, which doesn't always work. The only time other film I'll reference is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Excellently done. Please go watch it. But this gets all the tropes right. Like I was telling Brian, they're doing all the standard horror tropes, but not in a schlocky way.
Right.
They're doing all the good comedy tropes where it's just well-written jokes delivered well by good actors. One writer, which really helps for a script, is to only have one person.
Not too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, like
one vision.
2 is probably fine. When you see three or more.
And it gets to be by committee, and it's not. So, can you enjoy this film as much if you don't have this familiarity with these 80s paranormal movies? Like, how much does that add to the movie for you?
It might pull a little bit away. It's tough for me to say because I've watched so much of this and I read so much about these tropes.
I
these genres,
would say the acting is so legitimate and good that it doesn't matter that you don't reference previous films. I think that helps. That's additional layer, but you still enjoy the film.
So there's no fourth wall break. They don't say this happened in that movie. I remember. There's no referencing.
This is not Scream.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not the part of Shaun of the Dead where they say zombies and they shut down using the Z word.
Yeah.
Yeah, they talk about it. Not in that horror way that I get annoyed with where like, oh man, it's like they're like the shambling undead. What do we do? Come on, everyone knows you hit a zombie in the head. Oh man, they're drinking blood. What do we do about that? It's a vampire. They treat this like we don't know what's going on.
Right.
They name a bunch of like stuff that could happen to someone who's older. Like Brian Cox is an older actor.
He's just acting weird. Is he having a stroke?
Right. Like, is he having like a
low blood sugar episode?
Alzheimer's like episode or something? Yeah. Like stuff that could genuinely happen. And I thought that's a really good way to ground these characters and make us care about the families. Like, they're concerned about their father.
They're dealing with the real issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the question is why did he actually give himself up? And
well, that's a spoiler, Dan.
No, that's not a spoiler.
It's completely. If you're asking about the Act 3 denouement of
no. I mean, at the beginning, why is there a possession? Because you have to say the Wi-Fi password.
It was the Wi-Fi password. That's why
he was tricked.
He was tricked into saying it.
Yeah,
and that's so clever, making it a Wi-Fi password.
What does it just tell me?
I love it.
So, I mean, somebody's going to say a Wi-Fi password, and so dear listener, the Wi-Fi password is the secret phrase that summons the demon. And what's funny is
that is a spoiler, but it's an early
spoiler. What's funny
is... And you'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. But we see probably 4 different characters try and pronounce this Latin.
But it's Latin, so they
mispronounce it. And so like the lights in the building dim and everything shakes, and then it doesn't work because they say it wrong.
A big bang happens. Like it's just, again, horror tropes.
Yes.
And there's the classic thing everyone's had to deal with. Like, what's your Wi-Fi password? Oh, I never updated it. It's 127AQLB lowercase u. Like that weird gibberish when you don't make a
And you
password.
actually get to see the router and the lights blinking. That's what's hilarious. They go see, well, what's wrong with the freaking, why is it
In the
offline?
basement. Don't put it in the basement.
Yeah, don't put it in the
Yeah,
basement.
that's the worst place for a router.
I want to ask you guys.
Hold on, let's talk about routers a little bit more.
Shut up.
Movie and a router. Everyone.
Router
This
and a
computer
beaker.
geek. Yeah, so
Should this have been in theaters?
no.
You think it wouldn't have done well in a?
No.
Well, no. Okay.
I mean,
Would you have
I
been doing it
disagree.
more if it was
It's a
a big,
streaming. It was
big
made for
screen?
streaming by HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
All
But
right,
I
Dan's
think
getting very
it
mad
could have
about
been
it.
successful compared to some of the crap that's
Oh, there's a
out
lot of
there.
crap out there.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like it would have done okay in theater. Like if word
It's
of
got
mouth
enough
around
A-list
enough.
actors, named actors, that
Yeah.
it would drawn an audience.
If I would have had a good movie theater experience with other movie theater patrons that don't talk through the flippin' movie and who aren't like on their phones with the their iPhones or whatever brightening up like seat 4A down front.
People do
Like,
that on Androids too.
If there were, I know I said iPhones for a reason.
So
So,
Samsung whore.
but it's if it was if there was good movie theater etiquette, I think I really would have enjoyed this in a movie theater.
So
But-
like a small setting, like living room theater, kind of like 20 other people.
Yeah,
and
Aaron,
so-
Portland. Portland's a haven for good movie theater. crowds.
Portland is a haven for movie nerds. It really
Yes.
is. And so for listeners who are outside, not local to the Portland area,
Travel to Portland.
Travel to Portland, but also
Give us your
it's
tourist
an
money.
art theater that's got really comfy bucket seats.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually got legitimately good food, and it's got beer that you can drink while you're watching your movie. Many other states don't have beer laws.
It does not.
Unless
it's not
they have an
Allow you
Alamo
to-
Drafts house, and Alamo Drafts houses are garbage.
Alamos are not so nice.
They're
But yeah, if you have
Even to the crappy city.
I would say
it's based on?
for me, like this movie would have depended upon like other people having good etiquette. There's some movies that I think I would have been like so pulled in and so like wrapped into the movie that I wouldn't have noticed if seat 4A has got their iPhone out.
So if you watch it with some good friends in a lovely space that Dan has provided, thank you, Dan. That compared to like the perfect movie going like theater experience for you. Do you think you'd prefer this in a theater, or would you prefer being in a friend's place? Comfy and cozy.
I enjoyed it. I would have enjoyed it in a theater, but I think I enjoyed it more here because we can
Pause.
I was going to use language that's not appropriate for we can
I listen to a lot of podcasts that use all those languages.
we can BS amongst each other and educate each other about like
Bullspit.
What about the architecture of this house? Or like, do you see that circle that's carved into the foyer ground, like the floorboards there? Or like, I think we do
fair.
some of that, and you can't do that in a theater if you're observing good etiquette. So
Yeah, all right, but I will say that there's an additive experience of being in a theater with other people, especially for a comedy.
Also for a horror movie.
Right, and feeling everybody else kind of react at the same moment, it exponentially adds to the emotion of the moment.
Like-
you're
and
experiencing
the
it together with everyone else
Like-
in the
like the-
theater.
like the
yeah,
Anchorman
that's,
movie-
that's a good
the
point.
crowd experience.
That's a good point.
Yes.
Like the Anchorman movie blew up on DVD, but my campus, that's how old I am, they showed on the campus movie theater. They-
2004.
probably something around there.
Yeah.
But they showed it on campus, and it was so fun to be like in that energy of everyone cracking up at all the jokes together. And for horror movies, it's a big like thing for horror geeks to go out and like hit those-
Experience it together.
yeah, the horror stings, the jump scares, the
Yeah.
like the creeping horror when they have like the music swelling and you can't quite see what's
All
in
right,
the shadows.
You've talked me around. I agree. A theater would be better for this.
No,
movie
I
for
think
the-
a home theater's better. No, I'm kidding.
But it's kind of the same, like you can watch stand up on YouTube, but if you're watching stand up live, it's a much better experience.
It's electric, the experience.
Yeah.
But there are some movies that are better just at home. Like I was just curious what you guys would think. I think this would work either way. I loved watching it here with you all and cracking up and pointing out, oh man, so and so's doing this, and that's really funny.
It works either way.
But in a theater, it would
But
be
in
fun
theater,
to watch
it
with,
might
like like-minded
magnify it.
people.
Yeah. So the question is in the filming perspective, would they have used the same type of camera that it would be distributed digital or distributed film? Or is that a completely different format that they knew that this was just going to be put out in a digital format in either, broadcast TV or streaming format?
Very few things are filmed on film.
Everything's
now.
straight to digital.
Everything is.
It's either
digitally
Christopher
shot.
Nolan or Quentin Tarantino.
Is it because film is more expensive?
Oh, it's way expensive.
Film is more expensive. You've got processing costs. Digital, you know what you got immediately after the take.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
And you
even
can
though
keep
there's
redoing
video
it.
playback,
Yeah, and you can keep redoing it, and you're not burning film.
right?
I remember you told me, Brian, like the traditional method of with film, in capturing and doing a couple different takes, they would actually have a way where they would watch what was captured earlier that day. Kind of, I think it was at the end of the day.
Yeah. So it was called dailies.
Dailies.
And
That's
so
what that
what
is.
they
Cool.
do is a really quick development. And before shooting the next day in the morning, they'd see what they got the day before.
Uh-huh.
Now that kind of went away with video capture in the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay. That early though, I'm surprised.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, as soon as videotape rolled, they had a camera mounted by the film camera to capture on video all of their takes.
So they could see if there was something wrong with the lighting or some kind of weird thing in the background,
and see which acting was best.
Right.
You know, you
Right.
do 15 takes, and maybe take number 4 really had some emotional something.
Some
the
character.
director
It's a real
was
Stanley
looking for.
Kubrick number. 15
Yeah.
takes. That's
I can't even imagine doing any of these scenes that many times.
Yeah, probably not. But
Well, yeah, for this
who
movie,
knows?
it's probably a little more straightforward. It's not really. Well, it's not a super in-depth acting challenge, but it feels more natural.
There's an early
look, there-
scream that's hard to pull off that emotion every time.
There's
That's
no
true.
8-minute tracking shots where you're
Right,
pulling
right.
focus and the dolly is moving in and out and through rooms and things like
not
that.
at all.
You're
Okay.
covering like 40 different people in the scene crossing
Correct.
around.
So speaking of rooms, this was filmed in the house. This was not a soundstage. This was in a house. It was outside and in a house and in the neighboring little guest house.
This is why
right?
I love having Dan here. Well, also Dan runs this, but like, I never think about that stuff.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me they would have filmed not in the house.
This was all done in a house. Because you can, as Brian has pointed out many times, you can see the ceiling. Most of
House
the time.
have ceiling. It's
Yeah.
true. We've been saying that
And
for
if you're
years.
in a
here on Movie and a
soundstage,
Beer.
there's
Well,
no ceiling.
The lighting and the sound teams here then really deserve some recognition because
it was done really
Absolutely.
well.
They did this really
Yeah.
well.
It looked great. Like nothing
I mean,
seemed off lighting or in the lighting that was like weird was exactly right.
Brian looks
We
like he's
needed-
going to disagree with me. Do you disagree with me?
Hit
No,
him.
I
Get him,
don't
Brian.
disagree with you. I was going to
Yell at
say
him.
that the only lighting that I even noticed, which for me is a good sign of a good lighting design, is the lighting behind the stained glass. There's
I saw
there's
that, yeah.
there's a really neat stained glass
Halfway up the stairs.
panel on the stair
It's
landing.
like a triptych.
And then there was one moment where the light kind of shifted behind it. And that was really the only lighting I noticed in the whole film.
It was meant to draw attention to that stained glass, I think.
Yeah.
It was
I
meant
wanted it to be
Agreed.
moving. I wanted the stained glass to actually like shift a little bit, but it didn't.
They
It
don't,
was
have
just the
that,
lighting.
they don't have that kind of budget. They paid for Edie Falco and Brian Cox and Lisa Kudrow, my man.
Yeah, a lot of money went into this.
But there was
you need
also
Norris.
a couple of scenes that took place in the basement of this house, and the lighting there even felt right for what a basement
Yeah.
is.
Like it wasn't illuminated to the point.
fade.
It wasn't like
It was
Was-
very dark, and there was just like one point of light, like a
Yes.
bare bulb somewhere in that basement.
like
I
enough
know.
to illuminate so you could see what's happening, but not so much where you're like, well, that's not how basements are lit.
Yeah.
So my last question then, before we get to beers, my last
42.
question
I also have questions.
is, I'll have questions about beers too.
I have answers.
This was a blend of at least two different genres. How successful were they at blending these genres? And can you think of other examples of where it's been done so well?
Well, I feel
Ghostbusters.
like I spoiled. Well, actually, Ghostbusters is a phenomenal answer. I spoiled my answer by saying Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Like incredible take on the hillbilly murderer trope, where the two hillbillies are nice guys who just want to fix up their vacation home,
Right.
and murders just keep happening around them.
But so then this is like, you
I
would
think this is
say
about-
for the parenting, it's
I'd
like
say-
high quality.
I'd
Or-
say, yeah, high quality. It's the
And
same
it-
level where it kept blending the horror and comedy aspects really well, occasionally together.
Yeah.
Right.
It almost felt like the first Scary Movie, which was that and the second one were the first two good parodies of horror films before it started getting too wacky and too like.
cartoonish almost.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
I like the third one for the Naked Gun aspects, but still.
yeah.
But so you think both genres were well done and
I
they were
think
well
so.
done together? Brian or Dan, do you disagree?
Aaron looked at Dan when he said Brian. It confused me too, listeners.
Yeah, no, I'll go. I'll go. Brian is
You
deep
go.
in thought. He's possessed and thinking deep.
Brian keeps yelling at me and making fun of my choices.
Possessed by
tropes.
contemplation.
You have a small penis.
Oh, it's regular.
Spoilers. Spoilers.
there's some good tropes that get represented and displayed, and they don't react weirdly to them. They're just like, what the hell is going on? Which is like, it tells you again, it's no fourth wall breaks. It's like they don't acknowledge that the shit has happened in other films that I'm sure they've seen, and they're just like, why is this? What? And I appreciate
it's
that.
more realistic than a lot of the parodies. A lot of the parodies are self-referential and break the fourth wall.
They do.
And to Aaron's question, other than like Scream and Scary Movie, I can't really think of a lot of other movies who try to mash these two genres together.
Shaun of the Dead.
And both of
that's a zombie film, not horror.
It's a rom-com.
It's not horror. It's a rom-com zombie
It's a rom-com
film.
Zombie film. Zombie is typically horror. Just like how Warm Bodies is a rom-com and horror.
Brian was like mid-answer.
Welcome to our podcast.
Those other films are all kind of parodies, whereas this is kind of more a serious attempt at blending two genres.
Right.
Which I really appreciate.
And I think they do pretty successfully.
Yes. Yeah. I
So
agree.
are we ready for my question?
Well,
yes.
and what happens when they take two genres of beer and blend those?
Well, I'll answer that in a minute.
But let's hear
I
his
have a question.
Aaron's
Actually,
still on the movie.
Let me just break everything for a second. Aaron, that's an amazing segue, but Dan did have a question.
I said I had a question.
I know.
All right.
Okay.
So
Ignore
would you
Daniel, it's
do
just not
you
okay.
view yourself ever being that friend? I just broke everyone at the table.
Wait, hold on.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's a friend.
Yep. That's me. That's me 100%, baby.
Who's not invited.
You mean Sarah?
The friend who was not invited, who showed up
With
after the
amazing
texting 100
fringe
times.
sweater.
You have to be here. You have to save me. I don't know what I'm doing. Would you be that friend? Or could you ever be that friend? Or would you would that ever happen?
So we have a character, dear listener, whose experience was one of alienation, loneliness, and isolation.
And watching a dog that wasn't at the apartment.
And watching a dog that wasn't in the apartment. And I'm wondering if Dan has asked me if I feel alienated, lonely, and isolated.
No, how would you ever feel that you could be that friend? Like, do you have friends like that? Like, how would that ever
Have
work?
you ever had a friend?
So
a friend?
I have absolutely.
And this is why I'm asking, because I don't know the history here. I'm trying to be truthful.
No, for any of you at this table, if you were in that same situation, I would respect you enough and your adultness and responsibility to handle your own relationships and your own affairs. I would not feel the need to insert myself to inject my influence and try and change the outcomes in the way that this character does. This character foists themselves into a situation, tries really hard,
misread so many texts,
and it's because I think of dealing with their own insecurity. That's why they show up, and that's why they're in the movie.
Correct.
So I would say I wouldn't be that.
You
person.
would never be that person. You would never be that friend
because I respect my friends. And I accept them that if they're going to go and try and propose or not, or have a meeting of the parents or not, I expect that they're going to do that in a way that's right for them, and that they're going to handle whatever consequences that are right for them. And
she already knew half the parents, though. She already knew two of them.
Well, she did. However,
and they hated her.
And they hate her.
Well, the mom did. They never talked about Cliff.
Correct.
Well, that's true.
Cliff was cool.
Cliff's cool with everybody.
Cliff's cool. However, I would say no, I wouldn't be that friend, and it would be because I trust my friends are going to make the right choices for themselves.
Right.
I don't need to try and jump in.
Well, I yelled my answer earlier, but one version of Blake would absolutely show up with like the dopest outfits and become a problem. But real life Blake,
sweaters with fringe.
I mean,
God, yes, I need that outfit so bad.
That character is an amazing character, and I would love to have her at a country villa house visiting as well.
But in real life, I would be texting constantly and trying to help from a distance because it's not my place to be there. But then it's also a film where some things just have to kind of happen, even if they're not that realistic. So she had to show up.
She had to.
For the film, she had to show up.
Because she was only,
but
I'm not going to give a spoiler,
but this film is not,
she was pivotal to the
It's not
premise.
modeling healthy boundaries.
No,
True.
it's not.
No.
But what relationship and or friends or group of friends, she is let's just say, I'm going to call it fag hag. Two guys. She is that, and she gets really mad. She's like, "You didn't invite me to the most important day of your lives, and I've been here for you guys. I'm watching your dog in your apartment."
Especially funny.
I've been more family to you than your family.
Correct.
Which is funny when they
points
told
that out.
when they told her, "Can you please watch your dog?" But then they said later, we take our dog with us. She wants to go watch, and then she's just opening wine in their apartment.
She's like, "Where's the wine opener?"
Getting day drunk. That's the part of Blake that's more accurate.
Yes. All right. So Brian, can you imagine at any
Wearing
point in
that
time
amazing fringe,
that weird sweater thing that had fringe on
incredible
arm
on,
fringe?
Hey
arm
guys, my
fringe.
birthday's in like less than a month.
All right.
I would love
if
that
that's
sweater.
your question,
Well, no.
yes, I can imagine myself wearing that sweater.
Okay. Yes.
Well, only because
But-
you're wearing it right now.
Correct.
That you know that when I commit to a character, I commit.
You commit.
That's why it's so hard
However-
to play a druid.
She was actually one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Agreed.
She
And-
came in and
and
tried
she-
to rescue them.
She was so cool, and I never think of myself as quite that cool.
Yeah, but you could be though.
You're like
could be.
You're like
Given
twice
the
that cool.
opportunity, you could be.
Yeah.
Given the opportunity.
But
That's what I'm saying. And like
I
in this
also
opportunity,
probably would not. Personally,
randomly show up.
I would
Drink
never
someone's wine?
insert myself into someone else's emotional turmoil.
Right.
I don't want to be there.
Aaron,
I
ask your
don't-
fusion question now.
There you go.
It's a perfect segue moment.
Well, now I forgot. What was the question?
I
I
don't
was
know, it
I was
wasn't-
thinking
I
about
never
how
listened to
Sarah's such a cool character. Like she has this alienness and loneliness of like that
You have
starts
no
out, but
family.
however-
If we were to
You're
fuse-
my family.
We fuse the genres of these films. How would you fuse the genres of these beers?
Oh yeah, that's so.
There you
This
go.
movie feels
There
two
you
genres.
go.
What happens, Dan, when they fuse two genres of beers? That's what I asked.
Yeah. Okay. So
You nailed
these.
it.
Thank you.
got
So
you,
our
buddy.
last episode talked about that a little bit more than this one will, because so we at this point in time in the podcast are going to start talking about beer.
I wasn't here last episode. I
You
don't know what's
weren't.
going on.
We've
I had a sock puppet that had your name as a name tag, and you had a lot of really good points.
I still need
did.
to learn. What about other listeners
Okay,
who are like
so-
me? We're busy.
So we're talking about a film called The Parenting, which is on HBO Max. It's not in theaters.
Please watch it.
just
Get the
got
numbers
put
up so
out.
they don't pull it because Max is terrible.
Go stream the film.
Or if they're going to pull it, steal it, download it.
okay, so
We can't advocate that.
I can.
No.
I hate Max.
So
I hate
the-
Warner Brothers.
As mentioned before, we stopped by Beer Mongers after grabbing some food tonight.
where we mongered beers.
Where we
as
mongered
Aaron
some
said
beers.
earlier.
Well, you can do that. We picked out a couple of really interesting beers based on just the can art alone and the name. So there is a little bit of copy on the Living House Toby Cream Ale. So this is a 4.5%.
Aaron, read it in your
doesn't have
best
an
possessed voice.
IBU. But
Beer for life.
yes, there we go. All right.
That's what it says. Beer for life.
Aaron,
More.
The world provides us with opportunities for lived experiences every day, and we make beer precisely for those moments. Toby, dogs rule everything around me.
Well, dogs rule everything around me. Punctuation matters, Aaron.
It does.
This is a reference to Cream, which is an early '90s R&B song. Cash rules everything around me.
Nice.
Which I believe that wasn't Bones Thugs and Harmony. Who was that?
Wu-Tang Clan?
I think maybe
Yeah.
you're right. So yeah, this is a Wu-Tang Clan.
I understand
reference.
they're not ones to F with.
yes.
I understand that too.
And there's an F word in what I'm going to talk about here in a moment. So
Well,
this
F that.
this beer was made by Kylie and Lindley. I hope that's how you pronounce it. Created
Where?
I'm reading copy that I got off their website
Give me your laptop.
for the 10th anniversary of the Shebrew Festival, which just happened a few weekends ago. Some of us were there. It was awesome.
Boy, that homebrew is so good.
It's
That's
a
why it
cream ale
says
that
Hebrew 10 on it.
yes, it effing slaps. Their beer is built upon a base of delicious Pilsner malt and the tiniest amount of cornflake, which is an adjunct, as we've talked about them before, for a light and dry body. They took more modern a hopping approach with just a skosh of Citra and Amarillo for a light citrus and stone fruit flavor profile. There are notes of apricot, lemon balm, and just a nose of dandelion peeking through. Come find us at the fest or try a cask version as well at the brewery. So Citra, Centennial, and Amarillo are the three hops they use.
This was a very pleasant beer.
Guys, don't get distracted by this question, but Dan, is skosh an actual measurement, or is it kind of like when you do a pinch when you're like,
A
just whatever you
skosh is a
feel?
pinch. Yeah. I mean, they're relative terms. I mean,
Nice,
everyone
nice.
thinks they
That's
know
cool.
what it is.
No,
and
I
you
know
just,
what a
you know.
pinch is.
pinch
There's
or a
a
skosh.
yeah.
No, Aaron, stop pinching me.
Don't
It's
pinch
the
me.
part of brewing that's an art rather than a science.
Or
Yeah,
bite
yeah.
me like the dog did. What? Which
Aaron,
is the
stop biting
same.
me.
So this can from Living House
Aaron's
called Toby.
possessed.
So it's a dog that has a rattlesnake tail that kind of wraps around and does some things. So yes,
I thought it was just a snake with the dog.
no, I think it's the tail, or maybe it is a snake with the dog. I can't quite tell.
That's a dragon tail, I think.
Yeah.
No, it's a snake. It's a snake with the tongue coming out the end. Don't tread on me, Dan.
So beer for life.
Oh,
They do interesting, fun, good stuff.
That's a head. I thought that was other tail.
All right. So thoughts on this beer? This was a clean, refreshing.
I don't usually get notes of all the stuff you mentioned, but when you mentioned cornflake, I do remember kind of like that semi-sweet kind of flavor.
Yeah.
I really enjoy this beer.
Would you say this beer is like the breakfast of champions?
I'd say this beer belongs in a club of breakfast.
Okay.
Yeah. So the film, the first big scene with all of the family together is a breakfast scene. So yes, it is appropriate.
They made Cornish game hen. And
Okay. The night
chickens.
before was dinner. There was chickens and stuff and potatoes and things. All right.
I keep track of the food. I know what's going on. There was wine involved.
Okay, so
And
Blake,
This film was a culinary delight.
culinary.
A culinary delight.
All right, so Blake, thoughts on this beer? It was a little sweet, but good.
No, I loved it. It is right up my alley of beers I like. It's
4.5%.
4.5 cream ale. I love a cream ale. Like if I ever see a Pelican cream ale on sale, because I'm a frugal boy, I'll pick it up, no problem.
Right
I
on.
really enjoyed it. I think it matched the movie really well as well.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I agree. It went with the film well. It was light. It was crisp. It was enjoyable. This movie, it was also kind of light.
Yeah, we had in the first half before things got heavier. What the points Aaron and I made are salient. We don't have to add on to it. We nailed it.
We can keep talking about it. It started light and it became heavy.
Non-hophead beer, very accessible, middle of the road as far as not super deep in flavor. It's got some notes. It changed a little bit as it warmed up because we did pour it into glasses, much like the Pyrenees in this film. It changed over time.
I wouldn't say that I hated it. I didn't love it, but I can't put my finger on why.
Okay, that's legit. Everyone has their flavor profile.
Yeah.
We got to respect it.
But it was fine. It was absolutely fine.
I know you can't nail it. Would it? But I have follow-up questions like the aftertaste. Just
the tail, like a
the
Pekingese
tail, the
dog
aftertail.
tail.
like a snake mouth.
Yeah, the snake mouth in my belly. It was honestly, I don't.
That's
know.
fair. That's fair.
I mean,
I understand.
I have more to say about the second beer.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand that. A fool's errand to ask when you're like, I don't know why I didn't like it.
You don't have to bring my name into it.
No,
Wah,
never.
wah.
Not to incur Aaron or anything, but
Okay, so speaking of the second beer, we're talking about Rude But True West Coast IPA from Irrelevant Brewing, or Irrelevant Beer, which is what they're known as. And this
it's
was...
got Lisa Kudrow and Parker on the can.
It does. It has people on the can. It's great can art. This was brewed in celebration of the new tap room they just opened up, and it's a collaboration with Ruse and
Sorry,
Grains of
Dan.
Wrath.
Who's new tap room?
Irrelevant. So downtown Vancouver, right off of Main. Just
We've been there.
yes, we have.
Oh, that place is so cool,
So-
you guys.
so it's-
Come to Vancouver and check it out. It's so fun.
They're pre-opening. Their tap room space was Relevant Coffee Company, and their beer is Irrelevant Beer, and they've subsequently moved into.
That's great.
They've moved into
Very
the Relevant tap room space for both coffee and now beer, and they also have food and stuff. So I haven't been there since they opened the new space. I really want to go up there because Blake and I have been there a couple of times.
We gotta
were
make a
just
trip.
in the tap room brewery production
we gotta
side.
make a trip.
But yeah,
So are they part? There's something here on the can that notes it as North Bank Brewers.
yes, there's a thing called the North Bank Brewers Alliance. So most of the breweries that are in Vancouver, Washington, for those that don't live in the area, is a suburb of Portland. It's north. It's north of Portland across the Columbia Rivers, which divides Washington and Oregon.
Right.
It's basically just a big suburb. It does have its own downtown. It has its own malls and strip malls, and
They say they have their.
they
own.
they do. I mean, it's a big. It's actually the funny thing is I believe it's the third largest city in Washington State behind Seattle, Tacoma, or maybe the fourth after Olympia. It's really close to that.
I
Yeah.
thought Spokane was bigger. Maybe not. Maybe
Spokane's not that big.
No, Vancouver's bigger.
Vancouver stretches and is a really, 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 really big area that it takes up. There's the 205 and the I-5.
Would you say it's a big circle?
It's a big circle.
Reference of the film?
Yeah. So,
Oh,
this tap room location is right just north of Mill Plain, a couple blocks, right on Main. It does have it's all on street parking as those that have been in that area. No, check them out.
Yeah, if you visit, heads up, street parking.
Street parking.
Learn to parallel park.
I trust our listeners to be able to appropriately.
Yeah, Aaron's
park.
friends learn to parallel park.
So is there any marketing copy on
There
the can?
is. It's very
Yeah.
short and succinct.
Yes.
Drink this. Everything else is irrelevant.
Yes. So this is a West Coast boom shakalaka.
Boom, you looking for this?
All right. West Coast.
I might have been too loud for our levels.
Yes.
On that. Sorry.
I mean, I
We're all
showed,
loud.
I showed Brian a message when I noticed the ABV.
ABV is
6.8,
high on this last
6.8,
beer we
that's why
had.
I'm so loud.
70 IBU. It does taste bitter. So this
Yeah.
is a true West
Well-
Coast IPA brewed and dry hopped with Crush, KRUSH, Crush, Citra Dynaboost, which is like an extract thingy, and then Eclipse. So bright flavors, fresh cuss, strawberries, cantaloupe, and bitter orange peel. I do think that this is a little restrained in the bitterness as far as the amount of bitter flavor it has.
I was
It
going to say, I
does
don't taste any bitter. I mean, I like IPAs. I like a black coffee. I love a bitter taste. I didn't taste anything bitter on this. I'm still sipping on it. I'm tasting more Citra than anything.
So here's another great example of your IBUs don't necessarily reflect how it's going to taste.
You're an IBU.
The international bitter units, which people do produce and post, it's like how many? It's the amount of alphicity that you have left over after you've boiled and done your thing with your hops.
it's a
and
chemistry measure. It's
Yes.
not a palate
correct
indicator.
So you can have a low IBU beer that tastes super bitter. You can have a high IBU beer that doesn't taste that bitter, exactly like this. I think the melon shows up more than not. I think there's a little bit of the cantaloupe that kind of helps carry it, which almost has a sweetness to it. It does change as it warms up because I let mine sit for the 40 minutes that we were drinking in the last. This is a 90-minute movie. It's short, which is great.
Oh, we forgot to talk about that.
Yeah.
I appreciate under 2-hour films these days.
Yeah, because all of them are way too long.
Why
Not
do you like shorter films, Blake?
Well, I appreciate when a film knows how long it should be. There are some 2-hour films. It feels like lately in Hollywood, the standard is 2 hours, which not every film has to be 2 hours long.
Right.
Correct.
If you're going to be a
And
longer
not
film,
every film should be 2 hours.
Exactly.
They
I
could
agree with
use
that.
a little editing.
and if they are going to be that long, bring back intermissions.
Yeah, that
But
brings up
anyway.
a great question. Besides this beer, is there anything you would have cut out of the film?
I wouldn't cut out anything, but like yogurt covered pretzels would match this film amazing.
I would cut out. There's a point where Lisa Kudrow is talking about how a possessed person, we won't say who, calls her the C word.
Yeah.
I would have stopped it there because her delivery is so good. And like, he called me the C word. And it's really funny because Lisa Kudrow delivers lines like that really well. But
That's
then,
not really me.
But then they have her say it and then never actually finish it. But they have her like do the stretched out, like, see, you. Like, that doesn't feel right for this film.
It's like
That's like
10
six-
seconds. It's like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I would have, it doesn't really fit her style of comedy. It would have,
And it doesn't add anything to the joke.
It doesn't.
It actually
So-
weakens the joke.
yeah,
quite
it's
a bit.
better. She's much better at like, I said a thing, delivery. Okay.
So does this beer and the hop profile that it uses add to or take away from the flavor?
Didn't trick me into thinking about beer.
I know, right? So I again,
Honestly, I don't feel like I know enough about beer to say yay or nay. Like, I'm getting some of the sweeter flavors, but like I think it tastes great. I like this almost as much as the other one. Like, they're about even for me.
all right, Aaron, you have been quiet about this one. What were your thoughts before we go to Brian? Because he's got a lot to say.
I wasn't getting a lot of the melon, but like when you said like bitter orange peel, I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I do get some of that kind of like there's that sort of punch and intensity that kind of comes from citrus peel, and I was getting some of that. So I mean, Blake, when you're saying that this is so smooth and you're not getting a lot of the bitterness, I was like, no, I get some
There's some there.
bitterness.
There's some there.
some of it, but I
But
will
I also
say,
drink more bitter stuff than you do. Like, you handle sour better than I do, and I love bitter stuff.
This might be part of my bias. Like, I love sour beers. I love funky Belgian beers. IPAs are really not my
Your jam.
preferred. I mean, I can appreciate when it's done well.
It's not your strawberry jam.
And I'm so glad that there are
Listeners, I'm dabbing.
this multitude of beer drinkers that have really glommed on to IPAs as a preferred expression of beer. But it's not my palate. It's not my palate.
Understandable.
Yeah.
All
So,
right.
Brian, how are you wrong?
All right. So the second beer I actually enjoyed noticeably more than
Take
the
that,
first
Aaron.
beer.
Yes.
And I would say it was a little bit maybe not as deep in flavors than the first one, and that's why I liked it. And I thought it went better with this film because this was kind of a entertaining film with not a lot of emotional depth. I did notice as this beer warmed up, it actually got a little more bitter,
Acidic,
and a little more depth of flavors and more noticeable, notes in there.
and that's going to come from the dry hopping. And it did say that they dry hopped with a bunch of different stuff. And so, as it's fairly fresh, if you find beers that have been dry hopped, the fresher the better. I mean, the dry hopping just adds aromatics.
For those that are not initiated, fresher the better means just as close to
the born on or brew date.
Yeah. Like you want it as close to the brew date as possible.
Correct.
That makes sense.
You will see that on some cans and some bottles, they will put a date, and sometimes it says born on date. This is batch
number 456, 02 28 25.
So that's the Living Haus.
As we're recording, that's less than a month from now.
Strength has no gender.
With an exclamation point.
Correct. And the other beer just has some dots, and it says
Drama Quinn.
It says Ugo Ergo Mux Duglachusk.
Eat the mic, Brian.
Drama Brian, you're not speaking to
Brian
the
is
mic.
way away from the microphone.
Eat the mic, Brian.
Drama Quinn approved.
030625. So this is
mine has a lot of Latin and like an image of a bird.
2 weeks old.
Yeah,
less than
2 weeks old.
It's
so it is
Ergo Slammo Bam Bam, and then like this house starts shaking.
And there's someone at the brewery named Drama Quinn.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna get my name legally changed to Drama Blake.
Okay, so
my wife's last name is Quinn.
I thought you were gonna say my last name is Drama.
Let's not dox.
I'm not going to talk about her first name.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to say that both of these beers were interesting and applied themselves affectionately and effectively.
I feel like they worked
To
with
the
the
movie.
movie. I feel like we did them in the right order as well.
Yeah,
but we did.
I want to say that this film is like a 3-part film because there's the preface and the introduction, and then there's once we're introduced and we had dinner, and then weird stuff started happening at dinner.
And then you get that third act of we have to figure out how to solve this problem.
How do you stop it? And that was, it worked well.
Like you wouldn't suggest 3 beers with this. You just 2 to stretch across 1 to 2 to 3.
We had more than enough beers that we could have done 3, but I thought, this is a 90-minute film. We don't want to squish it all in. Even if we're pouring half pours, we still don't want to. I think 2 is good for this. If you don't want to do that many, you can just certainly do 1. But
are there any other styles you think would work well with this?
So
like, is there something you could sip one of throughout the whole film?
I had a bunch of different Hellas lagers and light rice lagers
Hellas,
that we were going to do this film with, and we decided not to do those at the last minute, and I'm glad we didn't, because those are just like, it's there to drink like water.
Right.
Those would be better with like
They're pretty
a
subtle.
different Brian Cox film, like Super Troopers.
Yes.
Wasn't Brian Cox in the original Gladiator?
I think so.
Probably.
Maybe.
Man.
You should ask an expert.
Yeah,
Expert. Jesus.
I'm the Boy George expert. I don't know anything about that.
That's why my joke is hilarious. I'm the Brian Cox expert. He was in Severance. He looked like an evil
He
Santa
is.
Claus.
He is. Wow. All right. So
He did Shakespeare.
other thoughts on the film? I mean, check it out if you can. It's streaming. We're trying not to spoil it. I think we did a good job.
Absolutely. I mean, it's relatively new. It came out this weekend.
Literally a few days ago.
Yeah. 4 thumbs up.
As we recorded this a few days ago, absolutely watch it. I've had friends who hate horror films, and other friends said, "Oh, you should watch Cabin in the Woods," which is still too scary for most horror adverse fans.
Yeah.
This is a nice smattering. It's like
there's
sprinkling
a
of salt
couple
in the
jump
end.
scares.
It's not as
but it's
scary
not
as like
super scary.
But then they turn the lights on and the ghost disappeared.
exactly. Like,
And
it's
we
not
were sitting
as
here going
scary.
like, what? Why did they? Oh, okay. Okay. I got you.
But yeah, I would highly recommend this for anyone who likes comedies, anyone who wants like a nice light thing to watch. You could feasibly watch it alone, but this is really fun with friends.
Okay.
Be entertained.
Age appropriate to teenagers.
Oh yeah, like there's not really anything awful.
Just language
Yeah.
Some language.
They've heard that like
at school.
decades ago.
Yeah.
In the 80s?
They heard it
When
in
they were
junior
negative
high.
7 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They heard it a long time ago. So I think this is an interesting, I wouldn't necessarily say family film. It would
No,
be
don't put it
interesting.
up for family.
I would say, well,
I'm just
Why wouldn't
imagine
you?
watching
Why
this with my
wouldn't you?
dad.
How does Nana
Why
dealing with
wouldn't you?
Brian Cox yelling?
This
look
is
at
no
it?
Pete's Dragon.
No, but why wouldn't
This is no
you?
Super
Why
Troopers.
wouldn't you? That's going to be my ending question. Why wouldn't you want to watch this with your parents? Because then it opens that door. It's
Oh no,
like,
I'd watch with my parents. They would love this. They think
Yeah.
it's great.
I would watch this with Blake's parents too, but not my parents.
That's fair. My parents are awesome.
yeah.
Brian, would you watch this with my
discussion
parents?
Of penis size would make me uncomfortable.
It's like one
with your
scene.
mom.
Mom doesn't give a shit.
She didn't give no shit.
Sorry.
Yeah,
She's
so
seen
I
it
could watch
before.
that with Blake's mom, but not my mom.
Yeah, my mom's cool.
My mom wouldn't care. My dad would be like, whatever, it's funny.
Let's say my parents are not on social media, but give them some love. They're awesome.
Yeah. So for those parents that are still alive, if you're out there and want to
And
watch
not
it
possessed
interesting
by bird
and
monsters.
not possessed
Wait.
by a bird demon, please take an opportunity and watch a fun film with your teenage children.
If not this, then Tucker and Dale versus
Yes.
Eve.
Even if you're not alive, that's still this movie's worth your
Hey,
time.
we're going to call back to having ghosts in the film. There you go.
I'm dabbing again.
Yeah, you are. As always, we should suggest that you drink a bunch of water. Some of us have not.
It says here, drinkum waterus, Latinus,
Water
which I
some
think
drinking.
if you translate, it says if you don't hydrate, you'll dehydrate.
Something like that.
Sure.
Oh god, the house is shaking.
I'm
Oh no,
pretty
ghosts.
sure-
The lights are blinking on and off.
I'm pretty sure aqua is the Latin for water. That's why we have the word aquarium. Blake.
Your mom's an
Oh,
aquarium.
geez. Here we go.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
What?
I
All
was
right.
speaking of hurt.
Any last thoughts before we close this out?
Aaron's
What-
being mean to me.
I have the wisdom of Boy George for everyone. Because
Yes.
time won't give me time, and time makes lovers feel like they've got something real. But you and me, we know they've got nothing but time.
Nothing but time.
Culture Club.
Time
Nothing
won't
but
give
time.
me time, but time makes lovers feel. All right, I'm not going to do that because YouTube is going to hate us if we
Oh
do that.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
YouTube-
licensing
yeah,
thing.
That's a
YouTube hates,
licensing thing.
Okay, you'll have to cut
people
that
having
out.
fun.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No,
I
just
had-
play it. Who cares?
All
I
right.
hadn't thought about that.
All
I was
right.
thinking Boy George.
Just
is
pitch it up
considered-
like half a
So-
Yes.
thing.
Well, what's
Modicum.
fair use? Is fair use like
It's like either 10 to 30 seconds, or if you're like doing discussion about it.
Well, let's talk about the relevancy of Boy George to this movie.
I mean, it makes
There's a
perfect
T-shirt.
sense.
There's a T-shirt shown multiple times.
There was a tape found.
There was a
in the
tape
basement.
found.
Yeah.
A cassette tape
Two,
for
two,
those that
two
don't
of
know
the
what
gentlemen
that
could be
means.
considered boys in comparison to the age of Brian Cox.
Or the
Yes.
Georges, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And one calls the other daddy. Oh,
There you go.
but this also did help to anchor the movie in the early '80s and do that reference to those
Right.
'80s films.
Yes.
They're, like we clearly start out in 1983 in the prologues.
Oh my
the
god.
house didn't start out as possessed. It became possessed in the 80s.
Oh
when
my
they-
god, the end of
Yes.
MASH. I'm crying.
Yeah, I know. I'm
yeah, Mom,
crying.
it's Stones.
Yes, it's Stones.
Right.
It says goodbye.
So
All right.
the difference
So-
between a ghost and a poltergeist, as I learned earlier tonight, was that a ghost is just like a deceased person wandering
Correct.
around. Poltergeist is attached to one spot
Yes.
because they've got some unresolved anger or frustration
Yes.
or guilt.
So these
about
were
something.
ghosts.
So these were.
And a possession.
Genuine question, Aaron. Have you never seen Poltergeist, the Spielberg film?
I don't know if I have. Honestly,
I'd recommend it. I mean, I
Wow.
watched it in high
It's
school.
good. We'll have to revisit that maybe for the podcast in the future
Yeah.
because that's a fun film. It really
It's
pushes
well
that
made.
genre really well.
Like fun with ghosts.
Yes.
Okay.
Lots of
Yeah.
ghosts.
Which is different
lot-
from Casper
And,
Yeah.
and not so fun.
and
and different from Ghostbusters.
until you get sucked into the TV, it's not so fun.
and different from Frighteners.
Yes. Thank you for listening, everybody. And as always, the opinions expressed during the taping of this recording are those of the hosts. We want to thank you for hanging out for the hour or so that we've been chatting.
Oh my goodness.
Check out other episodes if you can. Check out this movie. Find
Y'all, listen to
something
the
fun
two
do.
Ted Lasso episodes we did.
Yeah. Like
I
5
mean, these
years
two
ago.
boys aren't on it, but it's a fun one.
Yeah. Thanks for listening and hanging out, everybody.
Thanks, listener, for being so patient to hang out 55 minutes for a movie that's a 90-minute movie that we talked
Yes.
about for 55 minutes.
Yeah, well,
Well, I would argue, as Blake, the other host signing off, that we also talk about the beers for a chunk of time. So learn how to tell time, Aaron.
No.
there we go.
And this is Brian. I wish you would go and watch some films that you don't see advertised because you might find a gem every once in a while. Signing
Awesome.
off.
Thanks. Take care, everyone.